Zdravo na sita, jaz sem Ana od Startup Club Skopje, a vi gledate Startup Revolucija, podcast podržan od ProCredit Banka. Banka v čiji centar se ljudjeto, biznisite i životната sredina. 20 godini primer za odgovornost. Prije da započneme s podcastom, bi saka da podsjetimo na trite paketi, koji što gi nudi ProCredit Banka za svi oni koji što saka da započne svoj biznis. To se paketo za startupi, paketo za mladi предприемачи и ženi предприемачи. Посетите веб страната на ProCredit Banka и запознайте с нивните услуги, били ги тие се секогаш тука за вас. А сега уживайте во подкастот.
The people I invested in, it's mostly because I built relationship before actually doing or running a business. I saw a person with a Macedonian flag, like in Colombia, and for me it was like, why? Majority of the operation is focused in Latin America because it was growing organically for that. You know, Mati, it's you. You are the person to help us to go for the next level in the US. 500K for an expansion from one person, and even not a person involved in technology a lot.
Здраво на сите и добре дојдовте во седмата епизода од Startup Revolucija, каде што ги раскажуваме предприемачките приказни на стартапи кои што потекнуваат од Македонија, но оваа епизода одиме интернационално. Денес ќе разговараме со гостин кој што ни доаѓа од Латинска Америка и по потекло од Аргентина. Тој е тука како експерт на инкубаторската програма Имам идеја 2 во поддршка од нашата партнерска организација SVCP и тоа е Мати Барберо. Денешниот разговор ќе го водам со него и ќе биде на англиски, така што најавата ќе ја продолжиме на англиски. Welcome everyone to the 7th episode of Startup Revolution. It's nice to have you here. If this is the first episode of the podcast that you're watching, hopefully you're going to enjoy this conversation. Today, my guest is Mati Barbero, a SWCP expert that is actually a mentor in the incubator program I Have an Idea too. So the second round. He is a co-founder of Schooling One, tech ed startup, and also an angel investor and has a lot of experience in building startup communities. It's going to be my absolute pleasure to have this conversation with him, talk about his entrepreneurial journey, building a startup, but also how it feels to be on the investor side. So, Mati, welcome to Startup Revolution.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
It's also a pleasure on our side. You've been here for 2.5 weeks.
Almost that. I arrived at the beginning of the month, which is Monday the 3rd February. So,
and it's your first time visiting Macedonia.
First time, but not the last.
Yes, but this is a very unique experience because we're filming this in February as well, and we have snow outside, so it's snowing, and that's really rare in Skopje. So you have this experience that is really nice.
I brought the snow, I guess.
From Latin America. Which is super funny.
Yeah.
How was your stay in Skopje so far?
It was very nice. I'm glad to, visit this country, meet the people. It was amazing. Definitely, I'm visiting again this country and really looking forward to connecting with more of this Balkan region and the ecosystem, of course.
For sure. I want to just share that I'm so grateful that you've been a mentor in the incubator program. You got a chance to meet all the startups, 16 of them that are part of the program right now. You also took the time to have one-on-one sessions with almost all of them, which we are extremely grateful. And thank you so much for doing that. How was your experience as being a mentor in the incubator program and kind of sharing more and meeting the startups?
It's my pleasure. I do this for passion. And if I can add value somehow to a founder that is starting a business and, perhaps saving him or her some time in that initial stage, which is the most difficult one, is I'm happy to do it. And then the experience was great. I found, a lot of founders with those, let's say, founder skills, because, product will change and they will pivot and stuff. But, they're focused on fixing the problem that they are trying to solve right now, if that makes sense. So I'm very happy I met almost all, understood from where they came from, why they are building this, what's the purpose, how they see it in the next 5 to 10 years. And it's been a wonderful experience, and especially the Startup Club of Skopje and SVCP are building something great together, and it's good to be a witness of this. So I'm grateful too and thankful for being here.
Amazing. I think that partnership has brought a lot of value to the incubator program. I want to touch upon something that you mentioned, and that is I feel like the team and the founders right now are really important. Ideas can pivot, but I feel like it's important to have that urge to build something and to have that solution oriented mindset, especially when you're at the beginning. And I feel like that kind of maybe reminds you at your beginning and how you started everything. So but before we touch up on your story with schooling one, what everything happened, I kind of want to go back at who was Mati before the entrepreneurial journey. A lot of the founders that we have in the incubator program are still at the beginning and still figuring things out along the way. And I feel like it's important for them to hear what is the background of some startup founders before they start the entrepreneurial journey that they had. So if we, for example, take all the titles aside
Yes, of course.
of what you're doing, if I ask you who is Mati, what would you answer? Like, what are your interests? What makes you you?
I mean, I guess I'm that kind of person that loves learning from people, meeting people, understanding their lives, what they're building, even not from a tech side, like could be random people, right? Not from the ecosystem. That's what I meant. So I was always passionate about since I was a little kid about traveling. So I was very, I guess, now I look back and I was very curious uh, on learning from new cultures and new people. So I guess that was the starting point of everything. If you're a founder, or if you're building something, you definitely have this thing of curiosity inside. You want to learn more and the purpose of the things. So I guess everything is started with that. Of course, I can get into details, but I guess I always had this thing when I was a kid.
Is there a travel experience that's especially significant to you that you remember as a kind of aha moment or realizing something that you kind of weren't aware before?
Yeah. So I always, thanks to my parents, right? Travel since I was a kid. But then while I was studying, I was studying back in Argentina, right? So I was doing business administration degree in the university, and I visited France for Erasmus, and then I decided to stay one more year in Lithuania. So I did 6 months in France, and then I did 6 months in Lithuania, and I decided to do opposite to the first experience. Like in the second one, go alone, and that traveling experience and doing it alone was very important for me because I realized I was testing myself if I could go to a place alone, build relationships, and start. By that time, it was not professional relationships, but it was more like building, having friends, and it was great because I was able to do it from the very first day, and that proved to me that I was, somehow good at building those.
I feel like it builds confidence.
Yes,
Knowing that you can manage to handle things on your own,
yeah.
it builds this self-confidence, like, I can take care of myself. I know how to navigate in situations.
Absolutely, and especially going to a country. Maybe now it's common people travel there, but 8 years ago it wasn't a thing. No one was going there. I was the only Latin American or even the America student there. It's funny because there was even a course that I was taking that the teacher started talking in Lithuanian, and then after 10 minutes I was like, I talk in English. And he was like, wait, what? Like, do we have
Oh,
an
wow.
international student here? And I was like, yeah. And
You were the only one?
yeah, I
Like,
was
the
the
only.
only one. And
Oh, god.
he didn't have the slides like prepared, which was like, you can imagine it's not of like international people going there, right? Um, but it's part of the experience. So we figured it out, we fixed it, and it was a good course. I still have a good relationship with that person. So yeah, going to Lithuania was like, I guess, a starting point that I knew opportunities were going to be outside of my country, outside of my city, of course, but outside of my country. And then we can double click on this. I'm not saying this in a bad sense, but we, same as you, we both come from fragmented economies and emerging markets. So sometimes opportunities are abroad. So I knew that, and then I thought, well, I'm not bad at this. Like I can start from scratch or from zero in some random city, and I think I'll figure it out.
Mm.
Things can fail, but I think I can figure it out.
Absolutely. I think it's really significant and important that you mentioned this, because I didn't realize how important it is to travel alone especially when you're in
Yeah.
your 20s.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared of it. I'm going to talk about my personal experience
Right.
regarding that,
Yeah.
because I when it comes to my childhood, with my parents, we never traveled because we were situated in a location with most of my cousins would come to us for summer vacations, because we I live in a small village which is next to a lake, and
Okay.
everybody would visit. So I would never travel. I never had that experience. And I feel like when I was a student, a lot of my work that was beside university was connected to volunteering. That always kind of kept me here, and I never explored as much as I should have. And recently, I had the first experience when I needed to travel alone. And I feel like I had so much anxiety before that, because I was like, what if I don't know how to navigate through certain situations? If I miss a bus or a train, how am I going to get there? But going through that alone gave me the confidence to know that I'm a people person. I can go and talk to
Yeah.
people and find friends anywhere and kind of not navigate in situations. But I didn't realize, I didn't felt it until it happened.
Right.
So
That's I completely agree with you. And look, I was afraid too. I was like,
mhm.
going alone. My parents were calling and saying like, Where is Lithuania even located?" Right? Like, uh,
Yeah.
just imagine that. And I was afraid, but I deeply knew like I was doing the right thing. And I was having some dinner the other day with some members of the incubator, which are
Mhm,
also students at university,
mhm.
and they were asking me. Now I feel old because they were asking me for some piece of advice. And I said to them, "Look, at your age, you are 19, 20 years old, travel as much as you can and meet as much as people as you can. Like, I understand it will be tough and you are afraid of this, but there's nothing you can lose. Like, you already have that no. So grow with that. Like, grow meeting new cultures, understanding how the world works, how other regions operate, what are their thoughts." And they didn't realize how important this is, right? And now we are older and we understand. If we look back, those kind of activities and experiences are great. Learning new languages, right?
Yes,
i,
different cultures.
I regret so much not learning French when I was in France. I was skipping classes, but if I could go
Okay.
back, I would definitely learn French when I was living there. But it's I guess it was like that.
Absolutely. And when it comes to, for example, your education, because
Mhm.
you briefly mentioned that, when we first met at dinner when you came
Yeah.
here in Skopje, we briefly talked about how you kind of pursued being a doctor or
Oh,
thinking
right.
about that,
Yeah.
because your family kind of had that legacy on your dad's side,
Yeah.
right? So your father was a doctor, your grandfather was also a
Yeah,
doctor.
and his
So,
father was also.
oh, okay. So it was like a generational thing.
Yeah.
So, how did you feel? Did you felt any pressure regarding it, and or you were just thinking like maybe that's the right thing, and how? And then you had a conversation with your mother that was
Yeah.
significant. So maybe
Yes,
we can touch up on that.
absolutely. So that's the thing. I was 17 or 16, and I was like, okay, what I'm going to study, right? And I see, I saw my father and my grandfather connected to medicine, and I was like, well, maybe I should do this thing, right? I mean, it's something that is like from generation to generation, and then I was, I think, about to make the decision, and then my mother, who knows me really well, she came to me saying like, "Wait, but when you see some blood or whatever, you get like you panic, right? So how you're gonna work on this?" And that made sense to me, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm not going to study something that I don't feel like it, right?" And my father, he was very supportive. He actually was saying to me, "Don't follow this, right? Because it's like uh, it's tough." And now I look back, and that was one of the best decisions. I'm here because of that, right? But um, then also my parents were very important because my father was not putting any pressure, and then my mother was kind of like um, giving me some feedback and advice on what to pursue, with no pressures but with some bias somehow, which was very effective, I think.
Mhm. And it's wonderful because she's still included in your journey right now
Yes.
because you work together,
Yes. Yes.
which is really interesting. And I feel like we're going to touch up on that as well and that relationship. But there's an interesting story when it comes to your university days and this entrepreneurial program that you were doing in university. You mentioned something briefly about that you didn't pursue it then, but out of all the people that were on that course, you're the
Right.
only one that actually has a startup right now. So can you explain more about that?
Sure. It's a funny story. So in my school, the last, let's say like the last course or the last it's like, how you call it, like it's like a thesis or like it's like the last project, like the final project. It's like an incubation program. So you actually go with your company, you start building a company, you put the financials, the deck, and so on. And then we were like 60 people in that final class or that final project. And I remember I was the only one not accepted to do that. Like my story, my idea maybe was too bad or I don't know, but I was
Do you remember the idea?
yeah, yeah. It was a market, let's say a marketplace. You were matching people that wanted to play any sport, let's say soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was thinking to fix this problem of like, hey, I want to play soccer now, let's say, or basketball or any sport.
Oh, to find people to do it with?
Also, but then where are the closest, the nearest courts, sorry, to play, and then what's the price if I can book online? And I was trying to bring
So
technology to that
mapping play
mapping,
fields,
yeah,
but also connecting people
connecting
that
people too.
Mhm.
So let's
Okay.
say you need 10 players to play a soccer match, and maybe you're two. So you get together with other people. It's like a
Mm.
social media. It was like a social media.
Yeah.
Look, now I understand things and I get back to that. And it was hard to scale. And then the business model was hard to make money because it was made out of commission and you need like a big market for that. Like I understand now. But back in the days was maybe like, okay, Mati, you can change the idea or something like that. But I didn't have that option.
But usually when it comes to the first ideas that we have for our business, it's something a problem that's significant for us.
Yeah.
Probably we maybe played soccer, so
Yeah.
that's why it was important to you back at the
I
time, and
was
you were
playing.
like,
I was
"This
playing
would be
a lot.
great."
I was playing a lot of soccer, and I was struggling to find places and understand like if I could book or no, or how to pay. And I wanted to fix that. Um, but yeah, I was. Long story short, I was rejected. I also came back later from that was after Lithuania, and I stayed in Russia to watch the World Cup. Argentina was playing, so I came back later and I submitted my idea. Let's say one day before it closes.
Remember the
Yeah,
deadline.
teachers didn't like that, and they say like, "You're out." And I ended up doing a final project around valuation of a company, which was Facebook by that time.
Mm,
But yeah, I was the only one doing that. So,
mm.
but I said, you know what? This entrepreneurial world, that's it. It's not for me. I'm gonna do finance.
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
then, yeah, the funny story is like, let's say 5 to 8 years later, I'm the only one working in this industry, and if I look back, all of my colleagues they didn't pursue their idea, or they're not somehow involved in the tech ecosystem, or I
Mm.
guess maybe one, yeah, maybe one probably out of
But
60.
still, it's a very small percent of people that actually pursue to go in the entrepreneurial journey or start a company.
It is, and that's one of my feedback to my school. Is like, or my university. It's like we say or we want to like build entrepreneurs, but at some
Mm,
point I feel like we are building the best employees for companies,
mhm,
because and the feedback there is like, yeah, you can have a perfect presentation, all of the financial modelings and stuff, but then the real life, what's the next step, right? How do
mm,
you actually get into an incubator? How do you go, I don't know, to Chile and you enter into these governmental programs that they give you some grants so you start your business? That's like the real thing, that it's hard to do it, I mean.
mm.
So yeah, that's also, I guess, part of my feedback for them.
But it's beautiful if you mention that to them and send that feedback. I think it's really important to
Yeah,
give
and
them the other side of the
of course, and I
narrative.
I even try going back, separate some time and go back and build that.
Mm.
But that's another long story, and I understand certain things now, but it keeps being like that. That's why when I see some good ideas and I heard from some ideas, it's like I don't connect maybe through the school, but from outside, uh, because at the end of the day, it's helping regardless of the vehicle or the institution that is in the middle. Uh, yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like we shouldn't undermine failures and bring us to where
right.
we are right now. I don't even would consider this as a failure. It's just like a thing that happened, but
Yeah.
you never took it to heart. For example,
No, of
it
course.
maybe you were upset at the moment, but that
No,
didn't
I have
affect
a
you.
great relationship with my
Mm,
teachers, former teachers,
mm,
and I know that the idea didn't make sense. We laugh about that.
mm,
I guess. Look, I didn't have also the time to change it, so and it was meant to be. Things also happen for
mm.
a reason. I learned valuation. I thought I was gonna pursue a career around finance. I started pursuing this thing called chartered financial analyst for a year. Then I failed on the exam. That made me realize, like, maybe you know what, maybe it's not finance. So it was good. It helped me realize, helped me learn it, and then realizing it's not my thing. It's good to know certain topics and understand things, but I don't want to be an investment banker.
Yeah, sometimes it's very healthy to know what you don't like,
Yeah, I started.
besides of what you like.
Of course, no. I always say this: like, you need to start crossing things. Like, it's hard to find what you like, but then if you start having experiences, then you start crossing out those things that you don't like. So I did finance for a while and I didn't like it. Maybe I tried marketing or marketing courses. I didn't like it. Um, and well, HR, I think I didn't try, but I was trying different things to test myself and see if I make that click. And right now, I think I made the click. A couple of years ago, I think I made like the click. This is my thing.
So let's go back in a couple of years ago.
All right.
What was happening in your life? So I mentioned the startup schooling one
Mhm.
that you're a co-founder of. So how many co-founders are there
Yeah.
at the moment?
So we're three.
You're three. Are all the guys? Do you have a woman in the team?
We are all guys. Yeah.
Oh,
But we have
okay.
let's say 50% of the team is women back
Mhm.
in Chile, where we have all of the team.
Interesting. So how did it started? I think it started probably some kind of a problem that you needed to solve in schools because it's dedicated to from kindergarten to 12th grade. And how was that product, for example, well, the service built? And
So long story short, I met my actual co-founder when I was running an accelerator, which we were helping Latin American companies on a seed stage with their expansion in the US. And when I say help, was fundraising or market entry. So I met with them 2 years ago, and then let's say 1 year ago we reconnected, and the company had, when I say the company, is Schooling One, started in Chile. So back there we have at least 700 schools for the employees. We work in 120 different cities, like 700,000 users of the application. And we had this phone call. Enzo called me and said, I'm in this situation. Maybe I should kind of like sell the company or so. And my piece of advice was, why don't you actually operate in the US, which is something that we were thinking of, or working together via the accelerator.
so one of
Yeah.
your co-founders already started
Yeah.
school
Like
in
at
one.
least 11 years ago.
Uh-huh,
We
okay.
have another naming in Chile.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my thing. I help businesses scale or go to the US.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing that with multiple companies at the same time, not focusing on a single project, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, the company grew for 11 years organically in terms of revenue and team. They never
Mm.
raised rounds for
So it
money.
came to the point of what are we going to do? Are we going to sail or are we going to go to the next stage? So that was
Yeah,
the point when you got involved in the story
correct.
of school in one.
Because I was working with Enzo, and then he said, "Well, Mati, it's you. You are the person to help us go for the next level in the US market.
Mm-hmm.
So let's work together." And then there was some investor interested in investing money,
Mm-hmm.
because of course it was a profitable business growing organically.
Yes,
There's
but
not
then
a
you
lot of
raised
risk. Yeah, I mean
half a
there's risk,
million
but
for the expansion in the
correct.
US, right?
We got this out of one investor,
Wow.
which is not that common in Latin America. It's usually a VC, but this was a person.
Mm-hmm. So angel investor.
Yeah, but let's call it super angel, if that makes sense.
Super
Yeah,
angel.
500.
Double wings on
Yeah,
it.
500K for an expansion for
Wow.
from one person, and even not a person involved in technology a lot. So that's the importance of relationships. And so
Mhm.
brought his he leveraged his relationship with this person,
Mm-hmm.
and then we presented the thing. Especially, Enzo relied a lot on the team. We were
Mm-hmm.
combining good technology, um, not only Latin America, but we were going to build something great for the US, and then
Mm-hmm.
we had a great team.
Mm-hmm.
Latin American operation would continue to operate, and I would focus in the US, which was more like my expertise. And then we didn't need the money to develop the product and do some commercial activities. So it
Mm.
made sense. Everything, you know,
Kind of clicked.
click.
So it's the right moment, right
Yeah,
people, right time.
exactly.
And that's very, very important. Sometimes I feel like in these startup stories, luck plays a key role sometimes.
Correct. Correct.
Things need to click like, because you can work hard, but sometimes you just need the right people and the right time for it to do it and to be ready for it.
Things need to click. I some I don't like to call it just luck.
Mm,
You look for that.
absolutely.
You hustle for that. You work for that. You work for those moments to happen. You work hard for those moments to happen.
Hmm.
There are the things that don't work out, but then you have the thing, and it's always
Hmm.
like that. Yeah, timing and luck, but
Yeah, I feel like what you touch upon right now is that before that moment happened, there was a lot of work. There was a startup that was growing, for
yeah,
example, before it got to that point,
yeah,
and they already had like the knowledge and the experience of doing that,
yeah,
and they were ready for it. It didn't happen overnight.
correct,
What you're saying is that 11 years prior to that,
correct.
they were building it.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
great. And for everyone listening, can you explain how does Schooling One work? What does it provide? And
Sure. So basically, we are an all-in-one app for schools. The problem that we are solving is schools in the US, on average, use 5 to 6 different platforms, sometimes not even apps, but platforms to do different things. And what I mean by things are like grading, calendar, communication with parents, and you name it, paying the tuition fees, and so on. The user experience for all of these platforms are really bad. And sometimes it's in one single language, which is the English. We brought an app so that teachers, parents, and students can be all in the same ecosystem, which is this app and platform at the same time. And then uh, you have a friendly user experience with plus 70 different languages in the same app. So that's how it works. And you need the input from the teachers so that the platform works. And then parents will have full visibility on what's going on with their kids. If he or she is going to the classes, what's going on in terms of gradings, behaviors, receive notifications, but in an app. No in their emails, not in their WhatsApps, not in the other platforms, separate platforms. So we are bringing all of that students' information management
mhm.
to a platform and application.
That's great. I feel like even here in Macedonia, we do need something like that when
Yeah.
I think about it and kind of look at the structure of what's going on in our education. Because in my previous experience, I got a chance to be involved in organizations that work closely with
Uh
teachers
huh.
and education here. And actually, they're faced with a lot of challenges regarding the systems that they use in the schools, which are not optimized to serve them. And
Right.
it wastes them a lot of time and it builds up on the frustration because you already have limited time to actually dedicate it to the kids in the class, and then you have additional work. And people sometimes don't see the toll. It takes a toll on teachers,
Right.
and they're not paid enough for all of that. They're
They're underpaid. A lot
exactly,
of energy it's needed to work with kids, and it's a hard work. And then
absolutely.
imagine uploading information into 5, 6 different platforms. It's
Mhm.
painful. Um, so we are trying to fix that.
So this happens 2021.
No, this
Oh,
happens beginning of 2024. So it
actually,
was
okay.
1 year ago from now.
1 year ago from now.
We
Can you
actually
paint us the picture of what happened when you got introduced to schooling one in the beginning? How did it happen?
How did it happen? So in December 2023, we were building like the let's say the presentations and the plans, and then January 2024 we got the money, we signed the
Mhm.
papers, and then we started the LLC, the bank accounts, and
Mhm.
things started from there.
Okay.
If that replies to the question,
Yes, and how was the team structured
yeah.
back then? before you did that presentation in front of the investors, how was Schooling One structured then?
You mean structured in terms of position?
Yes, like how many employees were
Correct.
working? What was the generation of revenue at that
So
point?
we are doing $2.5 million in annual recurring revenue back in
Mm-hmm.
in Chile, and the team is structured nowadays exactly the same. Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
onboarded one or two people to do development,
Mm-hmm.
but we maintain the same structure.
Mm-hmm.
So 40 people in total, and every majority of the operation is focused in Latin America because it
Mm-hmm.
was growing organically for that. And then hopefully now, as long as we onboard new clients, we will do something similar on what we did in Chile.
Mm. And regarding your position right now
Yeah,
and your involvement, uh, what are you doing right now for Schooling One?
sales. I'm selling. I'm selling. I'm positioning the company. I'm participating in different acceleration programs, things that would position our company as the solution for all of the problems I just mentioned before.
Mhm.
So it's mostly that, and also part of the strategy is to sell the company. So that's also
Okay.
a side job, a
Mhm.
side full time job um, that I am working on starting this year.
Mhm.
You know,
Do you have a projection of when that would happen, or
that's
you
a
don't know? We will see.
that's a tough question, but hopefully it will happen somehow next year,
Mhm.
sometime next year. Uh, yes, that would be the good timing. Let's see in one
Um,
year, we come back to this podcast.
and we'll see.
The company crash. Yeah.
I hope not.
I hope. Me too.
I hope it has like a steady growth.
We will. We will have. I'm
That's I feel
confident
like
about
it's
that. We
really
have great people,
important.
great team, great people, great product. It can't fail.
Mhm.
It's a good story to tell after this.
Um, if I ask you about the company culture in Schooling One,
Yeah.
is there something that you could share which is significant and I feel it holds the company together and it's important and you haven't seen, for example, in different companies, or this is like the A team and it works because they
Yeah.
have certain values? Like, what would you share regarding
The
that?
founding team is like a family. They know each other
Oh,
since the
right.
university times, and that's very important because they trust each other, and you can see how um, how they work so well because they've been working together since they were building projects in the schools. And that is something that before joining the team and co-founding Schooling One is something that I saw. I worked with them through the accelerator, and I saw how well they were working and engaging, how cool they were in that aspect. So same as investors does. And after certain experiences I had, I started to focus more on the people rather than in you know uh, big fancy tech products or things like that. I prefer rather to work. I prefer teams than products. Let's put it that way. With teams, you can build a product. With products, you don't build teams. You know?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest criterias when we're doing the selection for the incubator
Yeah.
program. I feel like it was important the background of the team, if they knew each other, what were they doing in the community before
Right.
they started the story. So that was something that we were looking into, and we were um, actually really strong on bringing good teams in the second incubator program because every idea can pivot. We just need people that are going to be consistent and they're going to show up. I feel like that's really important because when you show up, you give your chance the opportunity to learn, to listen, to be
Right.
present, and to connect with people, but also have the courage and the audacity, in a sense, to embark that journey
Yeah. Of course.
because you need to dedicate a significant amount of time and energy
Your life.
into what you're doing. Yes.
And you will have up and
Yes.
downs for sure. You will sell, then you will lose
Mm,
clients, and then it's like this. And,
yeah,
it's important to learn from the lows and then celebrate in the highs.
for sure.
But keep it up. That's how it is.
Mm. And you mentioned the accelerator a couple of times. Can you give us a brief introduction of the name of the accelerator that you were in? How did it happen? How did you get involved in it?
Right. So I guess 3.5 years ago, I got like a phone call on hey Mati, you need to meet a person that is based in Miami. He's supporting Latin American businesses with their expansion there, and we were like after some calls, I joined this consulting firm,
Mhm.
which later turned
At that time, what were you doing? What were you working on
I was
when you got that phone call?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't know that, but it was a Series B company based in New York, but I was giving consulting for financial services. It was called
Mhm.
transfer
Okay.
pricing. It was
Mhm.
very analytical. It helped me a lot to understand numbers and how global transactions work. But it wasn't my thing because I was not. I feel I'm good out there talking with people and selling, let's say. And I was not doing that. I was working behind the desk, in the computer and analyzing financial transactions, and it was not my thing. So I was about to change my work. I think I remember I signed a new job or work. I was going to work for Accenture, which is a big consulting firm, because my plan back then was moving to Europe. So I thought, well, maybe I work 1 year here in Argentina, and then I asked they transfer me to Europe. And then I had 3 or 4 different phone calls, and I remember I really liked. I was having these flexible conversations, drinking a coffee, not wearing like a suit or something like that, which was what's going on here, right? Is this even real? And I like that, and I enjoyed that, and I had the opportunity to build something there.
Mhm.
So it was the opportunity to build something bigger because it was a small team. And then later on, we were acquired by a big real estate developer in Miami, who is actually building a tech hub to bridge Latin America and the US through Miami. I learned like on how to connect both parts. And when I say connect
Mhm.
both parts, it's finding the partners in Latin America and finding investors and clients and partners in the US and connect them with the companies through the programs. We grew it. We supported at least 300 companies. We scaled the team. We were doing well. My mother supported me with scaling the team. Uh, we needed to hire someone from marketing. I remember back in the days, and I said, "Well, I guess my mother, she understands how to
Mhm.
identify soft skills." And I said, instead of going to, I don't know, some consulting firm,
Mhm.
I'll try with her. She didn't want to, but it worked out. We hired other 5 or 6 more people for other roles, and yeah, we were doing pretty well. I learned a lot from that experience, and I actually fall in love with the purpose, and then also with the mission, which was helping uh, Latin American companies. And I am originally from Latin America, helping Latin American business man or woman in
Mhm.
scaling their businesses in a first world country, US. So interesting.
Yes, for sure interesting. I love that you mentioned that, I had meetings where I had the chance to be myself and not wear a suit and tie and, talk to people and connecting people. It's a big thing that you always mention
Yeah,
and the value of people
yeah,
in different scenarios. And this is something I wanna emphasize as well. I went to your LinkedIn profile and I look at, for example, the recommendations and what people said about, like, working with you, and most of the people, when mentioned in everything that they write, was, like, Mati's energy, his ability to connect, certain people and bring this, value besides the logical part in giving advice, which was financially significant. It was his energy that he brought to the situation, and I feel like that's really important.
yeah,
And as we're talking in your stories and everything that you're sharing, it's all about a certain connection and building relationships with people. And I feel like when you're at least working as a salesperson in some kind of a role and what you're doing, building connections is really important to kind of bring a significant value to why certain things matter. Because sometimes I feel like people, when it comes to the position of salesperson, people kind of are taken aback by it. And I feel like when it's done right and it serves both sides, it can really bring value to the table. And I feel like that's something that you do. And I just wanted to emphasize that as a really important thing of your characteristic that you're doing.
yeah. I mean, when I work with a founder, if it's even for 30 minutes or 60 minutes, in giving them advice, I am an active listener. So I listen to
Mm.
their challenges or their problems, and then I do it because of passion, right?
Mm.
Um, so that's one thing, and then the other one, building long term relationships is key. And actually, all of the things that I'm working on today, or the people I invested in, it's mostly because I built relationship before actually doing or running a business,
Mhm.
right? So I have a funny story about the team with School in One. When they came to Miami, I remember they texted me, "Hey, this was, let's say, 2022, something
Mhm.
like that." And they texted me, "Hey, we're going to Miami. Are you gonna be there?" I was there,
Mhm.
and they said to me, "Oh, we're going because we're gonna watch the Formula One." And I and I said, "Oh, I would love to, one day go to Formula One. That's something that it's my bucket list."
Mhm.
And then like 10 minutes later, they have my email and they send me some tickets to go with them, which for me,
Oh my
and
god.
School in One wasn't even a thing. It was
Mhm.
like even, but it was important to build solid relationships. That's something that I will never forget, because regardless of the
Mm.
value of the ticket, which I don't care, it
Mhm.
was a thing.
It was a nice gesture.
Exactly. And it
A
was
nice
all about
gesture.
that. And things that I am doing today, it's mostly, I tend to connect with people before even thinking about doing something together.
Mm.
You need to trust the person that is next to you, ideally. Things can change. It happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But uh, that's the key. That's the key thing. So it's
Mm.
not selling aggressively. It's most like the
Building
way I do it
connections.
is like, yeah, build connections and demonstrate that things that I do add value. Right? It's not like
Mhm.
selling for the sake of selling. Yeah.
And I feel like that shows through your other initiatives and things that you do in the community. And I want to touch upon the nonprofit that you also opened and worked in,
Yeah.
how it affects the startup community and everything that's going on in like Latin America as well. Can you share more about that?
Sure. So when I started working in School in One, of course, because of my because of my background and supporting Latinos, a lot of people was, and even happens today, were still calling me and saying, "Hey, can you help me? I'm going to Miami." Uh, and I felt like I was someone that could add value, and I
Hmm.
said to myself, like, I shouldn't keep this to me. Somehow I should put a brand out there that helps other businesses
Mm.
whenever I can. It could be as easy as setting up a bank account or opening an
Mm.
LLC, or even giving them a co-working space, which is something I'm also working on in
Hmm.
Miami. So it's that. At the end of the day, it's me. Let's say running that, but it's mostly for the sake of giving back to the
Hmm.
community. Not that it doesn't have like a monetary,
Hmm.
uh, you know, purpose or something like that.
Yeah, but it has
Yeah,
a bigger purpose in the sense of helping people
yeah,
grow and kind of give them the upper hand of doing things and kind of pushing them in the right direction. I feel like that's really important. It's the same thing is of what we're doing here with Startup Club Skopje. The space that we have, the events that we held here, and also the incubator program that we have is because initially the startups when they enter, they don't pay a price for the incubator
right,
program. They get it because we want to kind of put them on this entrepreneurial journey and see what they can build and give them the
correct,
support, the connections, and the network, and introduce them to new opportunities of how they can grow. And we always say maybe not every startup that's gonna exit the program are gonna have a successful journey, but we're building the next generation of entrepreneurs, which I think is really important. And I feel like not a lot of people get to experience all of that because you're in the space with people that are also building something
yeah,
just like you. And
yeah,
you have the chance to meet founders that potentially made a successful exit or are entering international markets at the moment and they are sharing their journey with you.
yeah,
And that's also very important because each mentor that we have in the incubator program is also a founder, which is key. We don't all like to bring consultants
yeah. No, no,
initially. We want to bring people that actually felt that on their own skin and
yeah.
know
That's
how hard it
that's
is.
been in the thing, or they are
Mhm.
in the thing, and it makes sense. And again, I do it. For me, it's like a simple math. If you, with a phone call, you can open someone's a door,
Mhm.
you never know how much impact it will do, going back. because maybe
Mhm.
they sell a big client or maybe they rise around, and that means jobs, and that means opportunities to our region.
Mhm.
When I say our region, I'm not talking about Latin America now. It's even with Macedonian companies
Mhm.
and the Balkan region. That's one of the reasons of why I came here too. Is just understand how I can also add value to other
Mhm.
emerging markets. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with your last statement.
Drago до колку.
Пауза. Време за кафе.
Апсолутно. Ти благодарам. Со секој испиено кафе во Sreќa бар и Sreќa Русидер вие го поддржувате Startup Club Skopje, така што следната кафе пауза направете ја токму кај нас. So before everything started with All in One, I'm really fascinated about all the connections that you have with
Mhm.
people and how you emerge to get them or navigating those situations. How did you meet those people that are your connections that help people with soft lending in Miami and also in the States as well?
Being out, I mean, going
Mm-hmm.
to events, going to big events, small events, side events,
Mm-hmm.
all type of events and activities, regardless if it's Monday morning or it's Saturday evening. Again, you need this component of passion in order not to consider it like
Mm.
because when you go to events, of course, you have your email full of things, coming in, and
Yeah, absolutely.
and your Slack channel is full of messages that you need to come back later at night and reply to all of that. So uh, it's being out there and being very transparent and honest with the intentions, right? It's more mostly I meet people sometimes without even knowing their background or if they are super
Mm-hmm.
top or fancy for the ecosystem.
Mm.
I just talk with them and them out of conversations, out of connecting as humans.
But that's how we met Plagica as well, right?
Correct.
It was in an event.
That's
Can you share
exact.
that story?
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. So we were in Colombia Tech Week, which by the way is my favorite tech week so far, and then we can double click on what is a tech week. But I was in Cali. I was I was a speaker in an event, like a big conference they do on a yearly basis. And then yeah, it was like the side event at night. It was a dinner, and I saw a person with a Macedonian flag, like
Mm-hmm.
in Colombia. And for me, it was like, why, how? And we started having this conversation on what she was working on, what I was working on. I was about to go also to Tokyo to explore that ecosystem and help some locals from Japan with their expansion in the US. And we clicked first as humans, but then we realized, wait, maybe I can come here at some point and add some value. And that's how we started the conversation, and now I'm here.
Awesome. It was such an interesting story when I heard it because a, l- a small talk or a conversation just started and it then
Yeah.
potentially got you
Uh,
here.
but it's always like that. You start
Yeah,
talking
and
and
you've
then
impacted so many people here, which
yeah,
is has interesting butterfly effect of what could happen
correct.
from
You never
one
know.
initial contact.
Yeah, out of the 25, 30 different conversations, let's
Mm.
say I had, you never know what could,
Mhm.
maybe it's the next thing.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, it's great. The power of connecting with new people is it's it's great. It's amazing.
Is there any, for example, tricks or tips that you can share with people that are more introverted and like to expose themselves to go and network, how
Mm.
they should approach certain conversations? Because there are a lot of people, for example, that come to our events that they're too shy to approach someone or they don't know how to strike a conversation. Is there something you can share as an advice for them?
I mean, no, like the first one is like this thing that we say you already have a no.
Mm-hmm.
Then why would you, if you don't ask, the no is already there. But if you ask for it, or then there's a chance. So go for that chance, right?
Mm.
um it, this story I just said, like if I didn't start this conversation with like it's I wouldn't be here.
Mm.
So that's the thing. And then you you bring this attitude for to accomplish your goals, which can be depending on your age or your stage of your company, depending on the life you want to have. uh but the tip is, hey, you always have this no, just go for it, knock the
Mm.
doors. Nothing bad will happen. You're talking with a human, with a person. Then understand that nowadays is more. Maybe the second tip is understand that nowadays is more people. The people thing is very important.
Mm.
Investors are investing in people in our stages,
Mhm.
pre-series A, seed stage, pre-seed two, and then are buying from people. We don't
Absolutely.
have brands like, I don't know, big brands.
Mm.
I don't know if I can mention any example, but what I'm trying to say is like those big brands that you already like phone brands, that they're
Mhm.
out there regardless of who is the CEO or who is the
Mm.
VP of marketing, whatever. In our stages, it's like you are the company, you as a person. So
Yes.
you need to talk with people. If not, how you're going
Mm.
to? What's the best way of advertising your company? It's advertising yourself, going out there, talking, meeting. If it's
Mm.
not that person, then ask, hey, do you know someone, I don't know, connected with
Mm.
school somehow? Oh, yeah, I know
Yeah.
someone, my uncle. Then you continue. So it's like, maybe it's easy for me to say because I have that personality that I go out to chase for the opportunities.
Mm.
But then for those people that maybe they are not like that, is start with small things. At least
Mm.
go to the event, show yourself, go with a friend,
Yes.
ask someone to introduce you so it's not that cold.
Mm.
Um, and it takes time, but we are humans. We need to talk with people.
Sure. I want to share maybe something that I do, because when
Hmm.
someone asked me, I was like, okay, let me think about what I do in
Yeah.
certain situations. So if there's an event that I've concrete picked out, if I knew that that's the event that I'm going to, I would usually check out who is going to the event as
Okay.
well. I would see who is going there. Am I going for a speaker? I'm just going because certain connections are going to be there. I also get curious about who they are and what they're doing initially. But if I'm on the spot, I also like to observe people and see what they're initially doing in the space, maybe what they're wearing and stuff like that, because I feel like it's a good conversation starter
Right.
to at least give a compliment on someone, like on something that's wearing that's
Correct.
significant about them. And that strikes initial conversation about something that's not connected to what you're initially
Yeah.
doing about, but it's a part of your character. And I want to emphasize that because there's a connection that I can build with that. So that's something that I initially would do sometimes.
Correct. And talk about not only business, but then sports,
Yes.
cities. When you start talking with people, you have these different topics that are not non-business related. Hey, do you
Mm,
practice any sport? And then you have a point of
mm,
contact. Where are you from originally? Argentina. You guys are
mm.
both from Argentina. You have probably people in
Absolutely.
common. So
Absolutely.
yeah, finding out those topics is. I always like to say that business opportunities will come from non-business conversations, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is like,
Yes.
if you start talking right from the beginning about the business and the partnership and the sales and the stuff,
Mm.
it looks transactional, right?
Yes.
Then
Absolutely.
if you build this thing out of this relationship out of other things,
Mm.
it will flow naturally. It takes time, but it will flow
Yes.
naturally.
That's true. But also, like at the back of your mind, you don't have to focus on that. You just need to be curious to get to know the
Oh
people.
yeah,
That's how it's genuine. That's how people know that you
yeah,
want to initially get to know them,
correct,
and then probably explore anything else. Because even sometimes we have assumptions about certain things of what we want to achieve through a certain connection, but we're not aware that there are other opportunities
correct.
that could be open.
Yeah,
Why limit ourselves on a certain thing that we initially wanted? Let's be open to the connection and see maybe they can give us a suggestion for something else that is going to be more beneficial in the
hmm,
future. So I feel like it's important to touch up on certain things, especially if they're people that are too reserved at the beginning and don't know how to be present in a room. I know it could be very challenging and overstimulating for people and
yeah,
maybe too much pressure to do it. But as you said, sometimes just show up to the event and be present. Come there with a friend.
gradually, you know.
Yeah, gradually. You don't have to force yourself into it. Awesome. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, that you invest in people.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, how many investments so far have you made, and what type of company was that investment made, and how long ago? How did you embark that journey as well?
Everything started last year
Hmm.
during 2024, and it was I was thinking myself, oh no, okay, how do I give back? So my the way I see it is like entrepreneurs in early stages they need two things: networking and money, connections and money. Connections, I'm good at that. I can add value with that. I can open some doors. But then I was like, well, now it's time for me to put some skin in the game. And I actually want to learn from this because I envision myself on the other side at some point, like being a VC, maybe launching myself a VC or joining forces with another one. So, in order to understand how it works, I said to myself, well, I need to start working closely with them. I will invest money. So I did have some conversations with mentors and people that I admire a lot back in our region. And they said, look, Mati, if you want to start doing angel investment, you need to at least invest in 20 different companies, which, because who you are, they're going to also start asking you for introductions and people like that. So maybe the right way to go, and this is also some tip, it's start working with VCs and invest through them. And that was, I think, a good decision. And I made my first investment in a venture capital firm called 500 Global. They were raising their fourth fund for Latin America, and it was the same thing. It wasn't because of the brand. I literally met the in Colombia again. I met the met the partner, and I knew who he was because his name is Rene. I was following him like on LinkedIn, and I admire him. He was doing this for the last 12 years. He started 500 in Mexico with his partner Santiago. So he started from zero. And when I approached him a couple of years ago, when I was, let's say, nothing, he was very open. He gave me 1 hour of his time, 1 hour and a half of his time to talk about, yeah. And for me, that was wow. Everyone wants to talk with this guy, and this guy started. He talked with me. He and I saw he was doing that without knowing me. Right, he was doing that because he was teaching, educating, and I value that a lot. So a year later or a year and a half later, I came back to him, say, like, "Look, I want to do this. I want to learn. I want to put my skin in the game." And I analyzed 6 or 7 different VCs, but the connection with the person again is the thing that stands out, and I ended up investing, I would say, in him. And look, I think I don't remember sometimes the names of the startups that are we are investing in right now.
Because they
I
have a
try,
whole
of
portfolio of
course,
them.
yeah. They
Mhm,
have a whole portfolio. I can go back and check them
mhm,
and see how they're doing. We have WhatsApp groups and also other ways of
mhm,
communicating. But I trusted in him,
mhm.
and then like that's it.
What was the amount of the initial investment? Because I feel like there are a lot of, for example, prejudice or myths that you need to have a lot of money to start investing and have all this cash in the bank that you need to
Yeah,
initially
no.
invest. So how much was the
Like
initial amount?
it's not about the money. You can invest from in companies, right? From five, I don't know, from 2.5K, 3K, whatever, up to whatever you want. Um, and I guess the most important thing that you can bring for founders and even for VCs sometimes is not the cash or the money. The money can appear from somewhere else. It's more like the connections and the relationships you can bring to the table. So yeah, you don't need to be a super millionaire to invest in startups. It's a
You can start with
uh,
a small
yeah,
amount.
you can start with small amounts, and of course, different VCs have different numbers. It can go from 100K to 150K with different capital calls. It can go
Hmm.
lower. They can make exceptions. Um,
Hmm.
it varies a lot. Um, but yeah, it's in my case, it's more sometimes like the value I can bring as a person to the table.
Hmm. Okay, if for someone listening and they don't have the experience, for example,
Yeah.
investing in VC funds or have the relationship with them, can you explain at least a little bit of the process of how everything goes and how you get introduced to the what the VC does into before you make the investment? How does the process go?
Right. In my case, it was straightforward because I knew I
Mhm.
knew the partner or the person or the team running the fund. But let's say, I mean, you start from zero. It's like, nah, you would approach the VC. Again, the VC, it's selling an investment vehicle, so it's
Mhm.
selling at the same time, and it's a
Mhm.
risky investment vehicle. Let's
Mhm.
make these things clear. And it's a non-liquid investment vehicle.
Mhm.
It takes let's say 8 to 10 years from when you invested until you cash out. If you
Mhm.
cash out,
If
the
you get you. Yeah.
probabilities are like you are not cashing out and everything is,
Mhm.
is gets destroyed. But yeah, so you let's say you have these conversations. It could be face to face or in calls, and they present you the investment vehicles. It could be a fund starting from that moment, or a fund that it's been in business for the last 10 years. As I was saying, 500 in this case. They present you the different return on investments, the different success stories, the exit stories, of course,
Mhm.
um, and then you have some time to think about it,
Mhm.
and it's
Is there something that where they kind of evaluate if you're eligible to invest or no? That's
that's a very good question. It's I remember my conversations, and they also focus, I would say, in bringing good people to the table,
Mhm.
not just money. It's
Exactly,
not just
because
money.
I feel like that's important.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
just don't bring anyone.
for a 30 million fund, which is the case, having 100K inside, or let's say from an investor, um, but that represents a problem, or you are not confident about where the money is coming from, or that's a conflict they're not accepting it. Probably, I wouldn't do it either. Like I don't want money. Like I don't know where it's coming from or what's the background if I don't trust the person. So uh, they focus. That's why I also clicked and connected, because I was like, well, if I invest here, and if I get accepted to invest, like they do the due diligence and the background check and so on, it means like the network inside here, it's also similar to me, or they connect with the values and how I like to live my life. So I was that also clicked in my mind, because it was like, oh, I'm also going to connect with other people that are similar like me. I don't
Mhm.
know them, but they are similar,
Yes,
which
and there's added
is,
value in that.
yeah, it's a VC. It can be a VC, and that's it. Investment vehicle,
Mhm.
analyst, a partner running the fund, returns coming in 8 9 years. That's it. Job is done. But these guys are building communities, and the VCs I'm involved with back in Latin America, which are also Pigma and Impacta VC,
Mhm.
same as 500, they build community. They run
Mm,
events. They
mm,
they they support the community. They're not just focusing on doing things for their funds. They want an
mhm.
ecosystem to thrive, to grow, and that's what I do. So
Yeah.
that you know, it's let's do it. I'm investing in this. I'm all
Mm.
in this.
Yeah, that's very important. Also, from a founder's perspective, when you're looking at a VC, you want to know what's going to bring at to the table besides money, but also that goes along for angel investors as well. For example, if you come to our company and you have a shareholding, are you going to get involved other than just in the investment? Are you going to introduce us new people? Are we going to get introduced to other markets throughout your connections? And I feel like founders need to also explore that as well and see how much people are going to get involved in the story, especially when it comes to the beginning and precedes investments
Correct. You
that
need to
of your
get the
company.
smartest money out there. This is a
Yeah.
concept. It's called the smart money. I mean, it's not just getting money. It's getting money that the person that is investing is committed to somehow help you
Mm-hmm.
grow with the startup,
Mm.
and understands the business, and maybe was in the same position like you and wants to help. That's a smart money. It's
Mm.
not only money, but then it's all the thing coming behind that. Uh,
Absolutely. We covered so many topics. I want to
yeah,
hear like what were the biggest lessons that you've learned at least for the past 3 years in everything that you're doing, because I feel like you have such a dynamic day-to-day atmosphere of like working and also traveling,
yeah,
and I have so many things that you need to answer to and to be engaged and to be present. Is there something that you've learned along this journey,
yeah,
at least in the past 3 years, that you kind of look back on and feel like you feel the growth inside of you
yeah.
throughout all of that?
I think we were mentioning about this, but build long and lasting relationships is
Hmm.
the thing that I always prioritize focus. It's like on my top mind. It's like natural now. But if
Mhm.
someone asks me, it's like first thing. Then do good, give back, separate sometimes to maybe if it won't bring you money, but if you are
Mhm.
talking with someone and sharing your experience and educating, you're adding value, and that's giving back. Uh, and yeah, I would say those are the top two. Then I don't know, maybe don't be, so we were saying before about traveling and things like that. Don't be afraid.
Mhm.
Learn from the no's, learn from the lows,
Mm.
celebrate in the highs. You
Mm.
will have up and downs. It will happen. Life is not like skyrocket every single time.
Mm.
uh, and it's not a, startups is not a race. It's not 100 meters race. Even life
Mm.
is not 100 meters race. So
Mm.
one step at a time. uh, and it will you will get to the goal, or to the
Mm.
you will get to the finishing line with consistency, and not like running like a sprint. It's not a sprint. That's what I'm trying to
Yes.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe all of those four or five I think I mentioned.
Lovely, thank you. We touch upon a lot of things that were connected to your success. If we look at the, we looked up the ups. I want to touch up on the downs. Are there, for example, situations where you felt like were crucial to you, to your
Yeah.
journey, and when you felt like things changed, where you felt maybe betrayal, disappointed, or maybe just the feeling of I could have done better, or something that you put a lot of love, blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
into, didn't work out. Are there situations like that, and how did you handle them? How did you go about that?
Right. I mean, uh, maybe it was this story I said before. Failing in this exam when I was 21 or something like that was something that made me change. At some point in my life, I was fired too. That's a long story, but there was also a law that was the most critical, let's say, moment for me, because of the ways and because of the different things that, after building a lot, getting just fired is not nice, but you learn from that. And I am grateful that that happened, because trust me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be building as much as I'm building now if that wouldn't happen. How I handle it was thanks to my family, and thanks to the people that also from this industry trusted on me after all of that happened. Which again, I keep saying the same thing. It's about people. And then I realized, oh, no, I built something. I'll do it again. And that's the way you need to think. It's not easy, right? But I am thankful because I think I have the best team next to me, not only
Mm.
in schooling one, but also in terms of my family. My
Mm.
mother, my sister, my father, they are supportive. They are
Mm.
on a daily basis.
Mm.
Um, Everyone that is near to me, and I pay very close attention to, it's on my inner circle, and the things that I share with them are very important. And those are the persons that, even if they don't understand the startup world, they give you like the you can do it.
It's security. I feel like
Correct.
if it's security and comfort,
Yeah, because sometimes you
when you know.
can you can doubt. But from the up and downs, you start building more confidence about, hey, what you are doing, it's okay, it's right, keep doing it. But then also, it's good when people from your inner circle, you know, gives you that
Absolutely.
extra confidence.
Do you doubt yourself?
No,
You don't?
no,
You're secure in like
yes,
your decisions?
hmm
Wow, and you say that with such confidence. I feel like I am still learning to do that.
it's it takes time. But now I feel, maybe a couple of years, I would say maybe yes. Now it's like, I don't have doubts that what I am doing, I could be wrong, right? And I could fail, uh, and I could crash a company. I understand that, but at least I know that the things that I am doing, they have good intentions. So that's a starting point, and the starting point for good things to happen. Then the timing, the money spent, the whatever, with after 1 year you can say like, yeah, I could have done this better. But I always operate with good intentions, so I don't doubt about that. Only good things can happen, or at least that's how I see it with after some time.
Yeah. I feel like when you go in with with a good intention, I feel like you know in your heart that what you're doing is
Correct.
good, and I feel like that also builds up on the feeling that when you do something right, you see the impact of it, and initially you sometimes indirectly feel what you're doing to the community because I feel like maybe people approach you to also share with you what has happened in their story and how you have helped them. And that also brings back to the okay, maybe I was tired going to the meeting, maybe I spent too much time stuck on a certain topic, but eventually that pays off
Yeah, correct.
in a beautiful way.
And
That's
sometimes it's not
that's
even
great.
money. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like,
Because
I
time is actually the biggest investment you can ever make
yeah, correct.
because you can get it back.
Correct, correct. It is. It is. That's that's a very interesting topic. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is like sometimes it's not even money. Like let's say or something for you. It's for them. And I'm happy to see when founders do a fundraising and they come back to me and say, "Oh, you were so helpful with on this stage because you helped me to realize about this topic or get help me get this metric or with this contact I have this conversation." It's good for them. And you know what? If they value your time and if they value that you spend time with them, I'm 100% sure they will give back too, because next time they will come back to a younger generation or a partner or someone and they will sit and do it. And that's how is- that should be a we need to be responsible with that, and that should be like a duty
Mm,
for all. If we have value to add to others, we should do it. We shouldn't keep it for us.
absolutely. Also, when it comes, I feel like to failures, I feel like it's very important what you mentioned, like your family, sometimes even your partner,
Yeah.
all the people that you surround yourself with, kind of help you go through that. So I want to touch upon a personal note that I wanted to talk about in this podcast because with my previous guests, we would always because they are in their mid 30s, already have families, and we would talk about fatherhood and motherhood and how they navigate through all of that
Right.
while they're also in this entrepreneurial journey. And you're 29,
28.
28. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Just turned 28.
just turned 28. So I feel like you're close to my generation. I'm 25 right now. And I don't know if you have a partner at the moment, but I wanted to touch upon the dating experience when you're in this entrepreneurial journey, especially when you're exposed in the public sometimes and people know you as a profile and they approach you. So how do you navigate in situations when it
It's
happen?
I guess it's tough, but it's fun. I don't have like a partner right now, which means like I'm single. But about that experience, not even like on a dating perspective, even professional perspective, you kind of like after a while you start reading people fast, and you know if they are connecting with you for a specific reason or they are just connecting, for good. You know what I mean? I think I realize about that really fast. I still fail sometimes, and I after some months I am like, oh, again, both professionally and say from a dating perspective, and you get disappointed, but you get used to, and yeah, it's tough, but it's part of the journey, and it's obviously it's tough because I know I travel, and sometimes it's hard for someone to understand like, hey, I'm working, but people that doesn't work in this industry doesn't understand like this is part of the thing, and you need to be face to face to close the deals, and that's where I'm effective. But eventually someone will understand me. I used to have a girlfriend, and she was very supportive with my trips and things. Like we stopped the relationship because of other things, but I feel like she's now like my friend, and she was very supportive back in the day. So there's people out there that understand how we live.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a dynamic that someone needs to kind of expect, or at least accept, or at least meet in the middle of. because there are so many things that are going on in the background. And kudos to those partners that stick alongside the people that are entrepreneurs. Actually, I want to show appreciation to that because I believe it's hard. I don't have the same experience, but I feel like my job is very connected to being with people,
Yeah.
being present, going to events. Sometimes it takes late nights of doing things that are connected to an event that I need to open or at least be there for networking. And even sometimes the
Yeah.
weekends, for example, I would have events here, and it's hard to navigate in those situations. So I feel like you needed a lot of understanding and good communication to get through it. I feel like that's also really important.
I like to say that it's a way of life.
Yeah, it is definitely
And
a
if
way of
it's a
life.
way of life, it will be hard to. I mean, personally, in my case, I'm not a person now different like of what I am at night. I'm always the same person. On Saturday, Sunday morning, Monday morning, Wednesday evening for events with my family, with people I date. Like I'm always the same, right? So, and people sometimes because of their traditional works are used to be a person from 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 9 until midnight.
Yes,
There's
yes,
other
yes.
people,
Yeah, that's actually true.
which is
That's
okay.
true.
Like I see that with a lot of people, somehow close to me, friends or ex university or school colleagues, and yeah, that's a way of living, and I understand.
Mm,
But I am always, like this,
mm.
and yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting that you mentioned. I've never thought about it that way, but now when I picture it, it's true. For example, they have one character
Yeah.
from 9 to 5, and that is like a
Yeah,
totally
9 to 5,
different.
there's someone like, wearing suit and super formal, and
Yeah.
then you see them during the weekend, and it's like completely different person. In my case, you will see me the same every time. Even the way I dress or the way I connect with people or do things is like I'm always the same for the good and for the bad.
Yeah,
Of course,
for sure.
because of my
That's true.
personality and the way I do things, I will
Mm,
have people that will say to me, "Bertan, we're not doing anything."
mm,
That's that's great.
yeah,
He or she saved me a lot of time, you know.
yeah, for sure.
So I try to be very transparent because by being transparent, you are already connecting with the people that at least
It's supposed to
resonates,
be in your life.
understand, like, that's the best thing. You're not hiding a personality or showing two personalities. Like, this is how I
For
am.
sure.
You take it or not.
Yeah, it kind of filters out
That's it.
the
It's like
people that need to
right
be in
from the
your life.
beginning,
Yeah.
and it's in a very respectful way. It's the best thing that can happen to you. Uh,
I agree. And also when it comes to a job that it's more of a thought process and you're intellectually challenged or you're thinking about those connections and people and things you need to do, I feel like sometimes it's harder to turn off that noise,
yeah,
even when you don't in your private life. I
yeah,
feel like I've realized that about myself. Because it's not like I have a job when I need to do something technical or it's a hands-on thing. And when I leave the room, I also leave my job.
right, right,
It
right.
doesn't work like that
Yeah,
because I carry all of the connections that I have with the people um, that I'm working with and potential partners as well. So that's also interesting of like how you switch off that noise and how do you do it? Do you have a certain approach or you still think like
no,
navigating through that?
like it's hard to me to switch off because especially after eh, I made friends in this industry. I travel with them. Uh, my co-founders, they're my friends. My mother, she's in the industry somehow. We talk together about different things. It has become a way of life, which I enjoy. I know some people would say, "Oh, but you need to turn off," and sometimes, I do it. I go out. I enjoy doing other things, of course. But to be 100% honest, it's when you're building things, it's tough to switch off and to turn off
Mm,
things. You're
it's
always
true.
thinking in every conversations. You're somehow thinking on ways of collaborating and doing
Mm.
doing things to keep building. Um, so yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to know that you're on the journey because you love doing that. It
Yeah,
comes with the good, the bad, and the ugly when you're doing
like
it.
I wouldn't
So you
do
just
it
need to
if it would be
set it.
painful for me. I wouldn't do it. Trust me.
Yeah,
Like I'm very. I There's a lot of things that I don't do,
yeah,
like places that I get invited to.
Mm,
I always talk both professionally
mm,
and a regular life. If it doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't click with me, I don't do it.
mm.
Uh, I think I'm becoming better in saying no, but
That's
which
good.
is another thing, right? But
I understand that on a personal level. That's all I'm gonna say
it's
because
hard.
I'm also learning to say
It's
no to
hard to
certain
say no,
things.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like, especially when you have so many experience that brought you so much joy and
yeah,
so much like excitement of doing them.
correct.
And that from that way, but you also need to know that you need to charge yourself sometimes. You need
Right.
to fill your own cup and
Yeah.
kind of step back a little bit in order to allow yourself again to have those experiences in a very meaningful manner.
I'm learning that. Like, trust
Mm,
me, it's a learning process. With my team, my co-founders, even again, my mother, she acts also as a good advisor to me, and that's the thing I need to improve, which is saying no, because
mm.
if not, it's impossible. If you say yes to everything,
Yeah, it leads to a burnout just to a certain point
yeah,
because there's so many things that
and at
is
some point,
dedicated to.
I was maybe close to that at some point. um, you get your social battery starts to go down, and then you need to rest, disconnect, because if not, you burn out, and that's it.
I agree on that. You just need to prevent it, and because when it happens, I feel like it's a harder recovery when
I
you have
know when
those.
it's coming. I can I see
Yes,
it, and then
you don't feel like yourself anymore. Like where I feel it, for example, when I stop going out and feeling okay when I'm outside of home. When I just
right,
wanna close in and
right,
stay home
right,
and
right,
do
right,
nothing and act like a couch potato,
right,
that's when I feel it because I'm not that person. Because as an extrovert, I get a lot of, for example, energy with just like talking to people. The moment I don't feel that and don't feel like going out and engaging,
then it's
I
happening.
realize that something's
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
I need to kind of readjust and do this like self talk and self evaluation of what's going on in my life and where have I wasted a lot of energy? What is something that exhausts me and that I can probably shift and probably take it to another direction and see what actually fills up my batteries. My friends, the conversations that I have with my friends are like my biggest battery charger ever because they bring me down, they ground me in so many ways. And if I, for example, engage in a conversation and I started with a something that happened at work, they would be like, "I don't know, is that all that you do? You know, you have this beautiful life and hobbies and stuff. Are we all we're gonna do is like what you've done and what you've wasted?" And they kind of bring me back to who I am.
Right.
That charges me a lot being with them
Yeah.
and being engaged with them. Like last night, I had like a 3 hour conversation with one of my best friends that actually was really it heals me in some kind of way and helps me to get back on my feet.
I
I don't know if you have situations like that
I
as well.
do. I do. I rely a lot on, again, family, close friends, the inner circle I was talking about, and it's it's very needed. Uh, I can't imagine people that navigates this industry alone, because it's a lonely process sometimes. Being a founder, or you go alone. So no, yeah, I agree with you. It's important to have those moments with your close people.
And that's why we build those communities where founders
Yeah,
can come. And I feel like it's important to have friends in the industry where you can share things that they can relate to and feel like they're not alone in this journey because there are certain things that you can't explain to someone that's not doing it. For example, if you're closing an investment round, how many people are going to understand that are
right.
like
No,
in your surrounding? Maybe they won't understand the pressure. For example, you have employees that you are responsible for that you need to take that accountability and
their
it's
employees and their families.
also yeah, that also impacts their life. The more you think about it, the bigger it gets.
Right, more pressure.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so you need to kind of when you hear it from someone that's living it and feels it on their own skin, it's different.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I feel like now we're maybe at the end of our conversation. Lastly, I would ask you: are there any similarities between the startup ecosystem in Latin America and here in Macedonia that you've kind of realized? Because
Yes.
You've been present in a lot of events here. You had a lot of one-on-one sessions with people here. Are there any similarities that you see or
Yeah, both
things?
Latin America and the Balkan regions are fragmented economies. I did this research when I was doing one of the presentations to put it into perspective. We as Latinos, we are 11 times bigger than the Balkans, and we are still small. What I'm trying to say with this, we're both fragmented. We both have different rules, different governments, different cultures, um, and we are small. So, but we have one common thing that we need to build from a regional perspective. Even if we build from a regional perspective, we're still small. So we need to think of going abroad and going to first world countries to find better opportunities, clients, partners, investments, you name it. So we're both, as I was saying, fragmented economies, emerging markets, but I see the skills that people that are born here are similar. Are at this, we have similar skills in Latin America. So Balkans have similar skills than Latinos. We were born in places with high inflation, with wars, with countries fighting to each other, new countries emerging, and we know how to navigate problems because we were born and raised with those problems. So when we make it to those top economies, we kind of like know how to surf it because we have better infrastructure, better funding opportunities, better things work there. So we are not struggling with problems for that. We actually were prepared since we're childs and teenagers on how to navigate certain life problems. So I would say that's the most the first thing that comes to my mind, right? Um, and I feel Balkans and Latinos are so similar in terms of like how they act,
Mm.
how we park our cars. Yes, we are very similar.
Oh god.
So there's more funny stories for things that I see in common, but there's definitely good people here with good intentions in Macedonia. I was also
Mm.
able to visit Kosovo, and
Mm.
I learned from them, and it's also similar to here. And when I see similarities, I can only think that there are, you know, big opportunities will come also to this
Mm.
region if they're not here yet.
Mm.
So great region, and I think, as I said in the beginning, I'm really looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, we would love for you to come back and kind of reflect on everything that is has happened now. Probably in the summertime, maybe,
Yeah,
so you
when
can
it's not snowing.
experience a winter and summer here in Macedonia.
Right.
Yeah, and also regarding all the startups that you met in our incubator program, do you think that there's a certain startup that stuck out to you? I feel like they would be wondering. They would want to hear this.
There's one. Should I say the
Okay.
name?
Uh, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So there's one company called Sarma.
Hmm.
Uh, like those guys are building something really cool, and which is basically all of the medical research or big pages of research. They're managing to put that into small graphs, and which is amazing. They're saving like a lot of time for people in this industry, and then you think you can apply this to other industries, right? So putting this into graph on how topics are related, and then something that I advise them is like clicking or making those graphs interactive. It's something that will be like whoa. So I see there a potential in terms of product. I see a potential for the team. Like they're very passionate when they share it. Um, they have both the tech part and then the sales. So it's a good team combined. And look, I don't remember, or probably I don't have the figures right now, but you could address a big market. So for me, that one it's a good one. It was a very solid one.
Yeah, I think that would be really happy to hear
Yes,
this.
yes, yes, yes.
For sure. But I also want to mention that I'm so happy of how they kind of welcomed you.
Yeah.
I want to applaud them for that. I was really happy that they were present in everything that you were doing. You even went to Kafana with some of them and had fun, which I appreciate them doing that for you. So I want to applaud them for just giving this huge welcome to you, which I really appreciate it because it was their initiative, all of that. And I was so proud and so happy that we're taking the initiative to take the time to kind of get to know you better and kind of show you around Skopje
Yeah.
as well.
And the kafana experience was really nice. For those who doesn't know what is a kafana, because I think we should explain, right? People in Latin America or in the US are gonna listen to this.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically they bring you to a place and they just keep bringing rakia, which is like a like a
Okay. Yeah, it's
strong,
an alcoholic drink. It's a
yeah,
traditional alcoholic drink that we have
which is
here in
very strong.
Macedonia. It's very, very strong. Yeah.
And
And
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
you can explain it. Yeah.
traditional music, and they
Yeah.
keep bringing food. Like when you think you're done, it's just the starting part, which is oh, now it's more. It's a it's
Yeah.
a really really interesting way of celebrating something, or going out with friends, and I really enjoy it. I want to thank these two startups that brought me there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was really really cool.
So that was such a highlight when you sent me the picture of you
Yeah.
guys being there. I was like, oh my god, they did it because they were talking about it. I wasn't sure if they're gonna follow through with the plan, and
And
I'm
it was
so
one
happy
it was
about
a
it.
smart move from one of the founders of
Mm,
saying, hey, let's go out and have fun and connect
mm,
from another perspective.
yeah.
We did that the next day. I love that.
Mm,
So we had, like, let's say, our one-on-one
mm.
there. So yeah, very 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 cool experience.
Yeah, that it was awesome. I think you guys. I'm so sad that I couldn't be there, but I feel like it was really fun to see
Probably
like
you've been to
pictures.
a bunch of kafanas before.
I could say I had my fair share of experiences in Kavan. That's, but it's a beautiful, I think, beautiful introduction to our culture as
Yes,
well, especially to our food, to our music, and yeah, this wonderful atmosphere.
yes, yes. I
Yeah,
couldn't
so
agree more.
yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy it. So at the end of each conversation, I always ask the question that our previous guests had for our next guest at the podcast. So that's what we do here in Startup Revolution. For example, my previous guest, Stefan and Stefan from Loom, they had two questions actually
Okay.
that wanted to be answered by the next guest. And the first one it comes from one of the founders. But their both name is Stefan. So
Okay.
this funny. This one is a doctor Stefan because,
Okay.
yeah. And he asked, when you're a startup founder, example that there's a lot of noise at the beginning when you do a lot of this stuff and you don't know where to dedicate your energy. So his question is, what is something that we shouldn't waste time on at the beginning when we're building the startup?
I guess I'm pretty sure I got this right. It's building the fanciest product out there. It's not like falling in love with the solution rather than with the
Hmm.
problem. It's a problem. Sorry, yeah, it's not correct. And usually startups fail because they focus too much on keep building the product, adding features instead of going out and testing an MVP, which is a
Mhm,
minimum viable product.
mhm,
So yeah, I guess go out and test as fast as possible. Get
mm.
feedback from the clients, customers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. And the second question was the other co-founder asked, like, usually
The other
use
Stefan.
the other Stefan, yeah, the other Stefan was like, usually I use Chat GPT for something that's like a huge thing, like a huge task that I need to do. For example, summarize certain researches or um, uh, certain ideas that are like hard for me to do
Mhm.
or summarize things. And he wanted to ask, what is the simplest task? Because usually the simple tasks are the tasks that usually kind of waste our time. So, what is the simplest task that you use ChatGPT for that kind of optimizes your time and brings you more value?
Draft an agreement, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
agreement for something to
Mm-hmm.
or analyze just I just hate, reading agreements or things like that. And a good way of, you know, reviewing the first draft. Of course, before signing, I will review it and read it. But the first one is like, I want to make sure it has this and that. And if it talks about these 3 or 4 bullet points I put, and then ChatGPT or any AI out there would come back to me and say, it needs this improvement here and that. I just, copy that and paste it into an email, and I kind of like keep the ball running before reading it and going back and forth reading again. That's I guess the simplest example I can give.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your answers. I feel like while we are here in this topic,
Yeah,
you mentioned that at this stage, at least a pre-seed stage or at the beginning when they're at the ideation phase, startups, they need to pay attention to the networking.
yeah.
Um, are there any other advices that you would give to founders that are at the beginning right now? Maybe something that you think you didn't mention throughout our conversation?
Networking, going out to events, meeting people. I said before, building long last relationships, do good. Like there's no shortcuts. So one step at a time. And it's like build, build, build. It's all about that. Uh, I guess that's the important thing. Like, there's no shortcuts. It takes time. It takes nights. It takes traveling. So it's not. I guess it's not for everyone, but this is the reality for this industry. But oh, it's very fun.
That's all the last part
Because it
sold it.
sounds like oh, it's so difficult. It takes nights. It takes this, but
Mm,
trust me, it's fun.
yes,
Like a
it
roller
was
coaster.
enjoyable moment as well.
Yeah,
You have to be in love with the ups and the downs of it,
correct.
for sure. Okay, and lastly, the last part is we want to hear your question. Is there because usually our guests are founders either from Macedonia, from the region, or just like you. So, is there something that you would want to ask someone that's in this field?
I guess the why.
Hmm.
Why the next person should. I'd love to know the next person why they're building what they're building
Hmm.
and like what's the inner purpose of the
Hmm.
things they're working on.
Okay, great. I would love to hear the answer to that. I feel like that's really important. It kind of drives everything.
Yeah, and hopefully you can get that to me in English because I
Yes,
won't understand
yes,
it
yes, yes.
in
Okay,
Macedonian.
I would ask them to we were gonna cover that part in English, so
Please.
you can have the answer of it.
Mhm.
Amazing. Is there anything that we missed that you want to mention during this conversation? Maybe something that I didn't touch up on.
I think we cover all. I want to be again thankful to everyone that was, and I'm looking to the camera because
Yeah, for sure.
um, everyone that had a coffee with me here, invited me to events or activities. Like there's were a bunch that I couldn't do it, um, but I had fun. I enjoyed. I learned a lot, and I love to say that you have a big opportunity here because of the skills that you guys have as humans. So again, to you and to the camera, I'm really looking forward to coming again and um, keep building together.
Mati, thank you so much
Of course,
for coming here, taking the time, the energy to meet everyone, to be present. We had a lot of internal but also open events with you here. You're always in the space, especially here in Startup Club Skopje. So I just want to show my gratitude of how grateful I am for you being present here and also expecting like accepting the invitation to be a part of this podcast and having this conversation with me where I feel like we touch upon a lot of things that are professional but also personal as well, and I think they're going to be very useful for the people listening.
I hope they are. And no, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. Sorry.
No problem. It was a pleasure on the other side as well, and I'm saying this not only from my perspective but also from the team's perspective, so I want you to know that all of our team here in Startup Club Skopje are very grateful for your contribution for the past 2.5 weeks and the incubator program, everything.
Thanks again.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll keep in touch.
Yes, for sure, 100%.
Awesome. And for everyone that's been listening to the end of this conversation, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this seventh episode of Startup Revolution. Hopefully, we touch up on things that are interesting to you. If there are any questions that you further on want to discuss, leave them in the comments of this YouTube video. I would like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would mean a lot for us if you support us and also get notifications of the next podcast and videos. I feel like this is not going to be the only episode that we're doing in English. So stay tuned for everything that's coming next. We have a lot of engaging events, opportunities, and we share a lot about our projects here in Startup Club Skopje. So we welcome you to also follow us on social media and kind of keep in touch. If there's anything that you want to reach out to, share with us. We are open to hear that. So you can write us on social media, but also here on YouTube. And I will continue in Macedonian for the last part, just because to kind of close this outro of the podcast. Ви благодараме сите што останавте до крајот на оваа епизода. Се надевам дека успеавме да одговориме на доста прашања и да покриеме теми кои што навистина би беа интересни. Следете на социјалните мрежи, не забравяйте се претплатите на нашиот YouTube канал, следуваат уште многу епизоди од Startup Револуција. Мислам дека особено луѓе очекуваат 10-та епизода и доколку не следите на LinkedIn, сигурно знаете за кој станува збори кој ќе биде мојот гостин. Следете ги нашите останати подкасти и доколку имате било какви предлози со кои сакате да разговараме следно, пишете ни во коментар на ова видео. Со мене се гледаме во следната епизода, а до тогаш поздрав! Thank you.